What the heck is going on in Cleveland? The Cavaliers have gone 17-1 in their last 18 games, and are now second in the Eastern Conference. They have the league's best record since January 3, and they have the NBA's best defensive rating in that time span, as well as the 5th best offensive rating in the league. So, what's going on? Now, the last time the Cavaliers got major media attention was on December 15, which is when Cavaliers fans suffered double nuclear bomb drops when they learned that Evan Mobley and Darius Garland would both be out with significant injuries for at least a month each. This is when the Cavaliers were still in the middle of the Eastern Conference and didn't seem to have any upside for the rest of the season. A lot of people actually started dooming about the Cavaliers' playoff chances, including me, I should say. I even made a whole video if Donovan Mitchell was going to leave or not because of that low point of the season. Well, just a few weeks later, they went on a winning streak and have basically kept winning since then, even without Garland and Mobley, and continuing to win now that they actually did make it back. So what's happening? Why are the Cavaliers so good? Well, there are a few different factors coming into play here. The main one I can think of is the elevated play of Donovan Mitchell and Jarrett Allen. These were the remaining two of Cleveland's big four after Evan Mobley and Darius Garland got injured. And in those two players' absence, Mitchell and Allen have basically created something of an elite two-man game. Now, both players were already solid in their own right, but playing without Garland and Mobley has allowed them to sort of build a chemistry with each other, and it's resulted in Jarrett Allen having the best 18-game stretch of his career so far, where he's been averaging about 17 points and 12 rebounds per game. And Donovan Mitchell, on the other hand, has been averaging 28.5 points in the last 18 games, to go along with 7 assists and 5 rebounds a game. And he's doing all that on 37% shooting from 3 and 50% shooting overall. Actually, Donovan Mitchell's been putting up MVP numbers over the last month, and it's something that has gone quite under the record in my opinion, especially because the last time Donovan Mitchell got any significant media attention was when the news of the injuries came out, and basically the mainstream NBA media was wish-casting his future trade request. And again, I would know because I did a video on that myself. Of course, this personal growth that Mitchell and Allen have enjoyed over the past couple months is partly because of the injuries to Darius and Evan. The reason being that their absence has led to some improved rotations from Cavaliers coach JB Bickerstaff. It's allowed the coach to put more shooting on the floor, namely from George Niang, Dean Wade, and most significantly, Sam Merrill, who is in his first year in Cleveland and is lighting up the court from the three-point range, hitting about 44% of his shots and completely changing the way defenses have to scheme for the Cavaliers. You may remember, but a common problem with the Cavaliers' big four of Mitchell, Allen, Garland, and Mobley was that they had two big players, namely Allen and Mobley, who couldn't shoot, leading to spacing problems because both of them couldn't really operate outside the paint. But now, with these improved lineups, the coach has been able to find minutes for additional players, at least during the absences of Garland and Mobley, that's allowed him to always have three-point shooting threats, which gives Donovan Mitchell extra space to work where he's great, which is getting to the rim. Some of the lineups during the Garland and Mobley absences, actually, they performed really well. And the best one I can find, and really the most effective one that Cleveland's pulled out so far in the new year, has been the lineup of Donovan Mitchell, Max Strus, Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, and Jarrett Allen. Now that lineup has played for about 165 minutes, and they've posted a league best 25.8 net rating in that time span, as well as also a league best 94.9 defensive rating. And this is a significant sample size, with Jarrett Allen anchoring the rim, as well as strong defenders in Max Strus, Dean Wade, and Isaac Okoro. Even Donovan Mitchell is not as much of a defensive liability as he once was. So yes, the injury absences forced the Cavaliers to try out some new lineups, and they found gold, basically. But in the past week or two, Garland and Mobley returned, but the Cavaliers have kept winning anyway. So not only did they find new lineups, but they've also found ways to integrate Garland and Mobley into the new system. Namely, they've started using a sort of double stagger rotation, and it's kind of a newer term for me as well, but it basically refers to the coach's plan of having two of his big four players on the court at all times. So this usually means Darius Garland and Evan Mobley are heading one unit, while Donovan Mitchell and Jarrett Allen are heading another unit, which makes a lot of sense because, as I said before, Allen and Mitchell have built something of a strong two-man game between themselves. But the idea is here that the big four aren't sharing the court as often as they once were. They're still in the starting lineup, of course. They still play a lot of minutes together, but there's far greater rotation involved, and it's allowed the Cavaliers to sort of get over that lack of shooting that once plagued their most commonly used lineups. Now, it should be noted that, as you can see, a lot of the teams that the Cavaliers have faced during this time of winning, a lot of them have been sort of weaker teams, or really just bad teams. You can see they have, for example, Washington twice, San Antonio twice, Brooklyn twice, but they've also beaten some really good teams, like Milwaukee, for example. They beat the Bucks twice, they beat the Clippers, they beat the Kings. Now, overall, are a lot of these teams bad? Yes. But if you look at the results, number one, just like any team is supposed to do, you only face the team in front of you. You have to beat that team, so it's really not their fault. The second thing here is to note that a good sign of a really strong team is how dominant you are in these wins. And as you look through this list, you'll see that a lot of these wins are blowouts. They're really not close wins at all. Sure, you have one or two in there, but most of the time, they're shredding the weaker teams, which is exactly what a good team is supposed to do. Playing weak teams shouldn't be held against them. Now, if they were only winning by a couple of points each game, then sure, you could say something. But when you're winning against Brooklyn, for example, by 30 points, or Toronto by 30 points, or even Milwaukee by 40 points, then there's something special going on here. It's not any team that does that just because they're facing weaker opponents. Now, looking at the standings, we see that the Cavaliers are now second, and they're 5 games behind the Celtics and 2 games ahead of the Bucks. Now, I don't know how much of a hot take this is. It might be a cold take, actually, but I think it's likely the Cavaliers finish second in the Eastern Conference this year. The Knicks and 76ers are both suffering because of injuries. They're still good teams, especially the Knicks, but they've lost some momentum because of injuries to starting players, and in the Sixers' case, Joel Embiid. And as for the Bucks, they're 2 games behind the Cavaliers, but they've had some struggles of their own. That doesn't mean they're not a good team, but it does mean that they've sort of lost that momentum that would have kept them close to the Cavaliers. And assuming that the Cavaliers stay in second, then we're looking at a potential first-round matchup with either the Magic or the Heat, or maybe even the Bulls and the Hawks, but I'd say it's most likely the Miami Heat, which would be a very interesting first round. Considering the Cavaliers' improvements this year, and the Heat being the Heat, I'd say that would be an unpredictable first round myself. But anyway, that's where the Cavaliers are at this point of the season, and I do recommend watching a Cavaliers game or two because this is a very exciting team, and I think they're going to go at least as far as they did last year in the playoffs, which is the first round. But who knows, I could see them going to the second round as well. They're showing that playoff run potential that I think they were missing last year, especially with Donovan Mitchell looking as good as he is. He's looking like the clear-cut leader this time, and there's less ambiguity in the offense. But that's enough for me. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on the Cavaliers, and yeah, leave them in the comments below. If you liked what you heard, then please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.